lines today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Since taking office more than 3 years ago, my administration has made it a priority to do everything that we do through a lens of equity, and that includes how we run the Justice Center and how we treat residents who are under our care. Today, I'm excited to announce the first of its kind study on racial equity, and it's kicking off today here at the Justice Center. Thanks to a $300,000 grant from the MacArthur Foundation, staff here at the Justice Center will work with researchers from the University of Missouri St. Louis, Florida State University, and George Mason University over an 18-month period of time. And during this time, talking with employees and residents, this pioneering collaboration will identify programs and policies that we can put into place to improve the culture inside the jail and ultimately reduce the jail population. Through the leadership of Scott Anders and his predecessor, Doug Burris, the culture of the jail has fundamentally improved, with more programming and educational opportunities for residents and more training and pay for employees. As the experts with me here can attest, racial disparities are a key driver of high incarceration rates. However, the inequities are not always explicit, and if not identified, will continue to be repeated. Addressing racial inequities creates healthier work environments for staff and improved relationships with jail residents. Addressing racial inequities also improves the outcomes when those in this facility are released. Racial inequities persist in every system across the country, including healthcare, education, and criminal justice. To achieve equity requires addressing racism and all other forms of oppression. When all parts of our community, education, housing, healthcare, and criminal justice work well for all people, disparities are eliminated. And that's why this study is so important. With me today are members of the research group, including Carrie Pettis Davis with Florida State University, Faye Taxman with George Mason University, Beth Hubner with UMSL, who's also a member of our Justice Services Advisory Board, Nancy McCarthy, a retired state probation regional administrator, and Rebecca Bennett, founder of Emerging Wisdom and Empower Institute. I'm going to ask Carrie to come up and say a few words.
Thank you so much. Good morning. It's very exciting to be here as a former St. Louis resident. The national eye has been on St. Louis for years around issues of racial inequities and racial disparities in people's interactions with the criminal justice system. 8 years ago, the country was looking at all the problems of St. Louis and trying to understand those problems and how they were playing out in their communities. Fast forward to today, the country is looking at St. Louis on how to identify solutions around racial inequities and how to improve people's experiences who come into contact with the jail either as residents or as people who work here. So MacArthur Foundation and a number of other stakeholders has said St. Louis is the place to learn how we work internally to ameliorate racial disparities and promote racial inequity. And we want to develop a process that is documented that can be taken to other communities across the country. So we are very excited that the leadership of St. Louis County and of St. Louis Jail has invited experts from around the country to pair with the expertise that they have inside the jail and work through a highly intensive quality improvement process that we hope continues to build on the work that Director Anders has done on culture in the jail and continues to improve the outcomes for staff and residents who live here. So thank you so much for being here and for your interest in this work, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Faye Taxman from George Mason University.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here, and I particularly want to thank the staff who have essentially volunteered to go on this journey with us. As Carrie has indicated, you know, we are doing groundbreaking work here. So what is the work that we're going to do? Well, essentially, we're taking a quality improvement process called Plan, Do, Study, Act, and using that as a way to address some of the racial issues and to identify solutions that may occur. For those of you who don't know, Plan, Do, Study, Act is part of a group of quality improvement processes that really depend upon the staff and the residents and the stakeholders in St. Louis County to come up with ideas and brainstorm ideas about what might those solutions look like. And what's really beneficial here is that we may be experts because we've been doing research for a long time, but we really don't have an on-the-ground understanding often of what some of the issues are or what some of the solutions are. And I've been doing Plan, Do, Study, Act projects for about the last 15 years. And it's remarkable the ideas that can be generated in order to be able to address some of these very difficult issues in our society and in how we practice our criminal legal system. So I'm really pleased to be here, and I really want to thank all the staff that have volunteered to be part of this project, and we very much look forward to it. And as a side note, just because Carrie started this, I also am a former resident of St. Louis. I grew up here. So it's really a pleasure to be back in my hometown. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I don't mean to be rude and ask about something different, but as you know, I've been stonewalled in my questions about the 6-year-old who drowned.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this loophole that lets summer camps off the hook from rules and regulations?
Well, let's hold off on that for a minute, but we'll certainly answer your question today. Does anybody have any questions about the study of the jail or what we are here to talk about today?
Dr. What do you see as some of the key challenges in the jail, and how will this help solve them?
Well, I think the challenges in the jail are the same challenges we see across the country, making sure that we find the balance of putting the appropriate resources into fighting violent crime, but not incarcerating folks that are down on their luck or having trouble getting through their day or finding basic resources. And we're going to find that balance. Once folks are in the jail, the folks that need to be here, then we're going to work with them to make sure that when they leave, they have the resources they need to be successful. If they have a substance abuse problem, then we're addressing that. If they have mental health issues, we're going to address that. And then while they're under our care, we're going to try and find a pathway to a job. And sometimes we start that job training while they're still with us as a resident in the jail. But those are the basic challenges of everybody across the country. We're taking those very seriously here in St. Louis County. We have since I became county executive 3 years ago, when some of the news around the jail wasn't quite so positive. And we're going to put the right resources into making sure that the residents that are under our care are treated properly and have the right opportunities to be successful when they leave, and also that our correction officers, our employees here, have the proper pay and training to be successful in their work.
What makes this, and I don't know if this is a question for Dr. Waxman or for someone else, what makes this particular way of reviewing processes and making changes different than some of the other process reviews that have taken place within the jail or elsewhere within the county?
Well, we are continuing on a trajectory to have real positive change in our jail. Since the beginning of my administration, we reinstituted the Criminal Justice Advisory Board. They've been meeting regularly, and they're a very talented group of individuals. And we've asked people who are longtime critics of our jail to join in that process, and they have. And those have been some difficult discussions. We've had an audit of the jail to make sure we understand best practices. We're working, and we have been working cooperatively with the MacArthur Foundation with a multi-million-dollar grant to address substance abuse among our residents and our community here in St. Louis County, because we understand that substance abuse drives a lot of the criminal activity in our community. What we're doing here today is a continuation of that pathway and working to address racial inequities in our jail, because we understand that that drives, just like every other system in our community and in our country, racism is a part of everything we see. We have to address that thoughtfully, intentionally, and this process is going to help us do that. A $300,000 grant is a significant investment with academic leaders from across the country who are coming here to St. Louis to help us be successful. And we're very proud of this trajectory. We're very proud of these milestones. Today is another milestone in improving how we treat our residents in the jail. We have to recognize that crime and public safety includes making sure that our police department has the appropriate resources they need to be successful, and that's what we've done in St. Louis County. The other part of that is making sure that the folks that are committing these crimes in our community have the opportunity to make better choices. Half the people committing crimes right now in our community were once in jail. And so when they pass through our system, we need to find a better path for them, a path to a job, a path to substance abuse treatment, a path to mental health treatment, and away from making bad choices and getting involved in criminal activity. We have to address crime from both sides. One side is allowing our folks that are committing these crimes to make better choices. The other side is making sure that law enforcement has the resources they need to be successful.
And what is it about this particular style of looking at processes that you think will make it successful ultimately in addressing the racial inequalities? What is different about a study plan do act?
Well, we've never done anything like this before, but I think I'll let the experts address that. I would just recognize that we've got the academic leaders from across the country here in St. Louis to help us be successful with a grant from the MacArthur Foundation, which is very, very serious about criminal justice reform and really are the experts in our country. But I'll let some of our experts talk about that. Why don't you come over here to the microphone?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So the Plan, Do, Study, Act methodology is basically structures the process to get to solutions and test out solutions. And in other areas, like in substance use treatment programs, they've been using this PDSA process for about the last 20 years to really help improve access to clinics and help improve length of stay within treatment programs. So it's been tested in the addiction treatment field. It's also been tested in healthcare, where the emphasis is on reducing fatalities within hospital settings through, errors that may occur because team members don't work well together. So what this process does here is these awesome people in the room who currently work in the St. Louis County Jail and community corrections agencies, they're really the designers of the change process. So it's not a top-down process. It's really a bottom-up process. And what makes this different is the people who work and also who live in the jail are part of designing solutions. And in the substance use treatment system, what they've learned is they can change intake procedures to improve the flow of people into treatment programs more effectively, get people medications that they need more effectively. We think that by applying it here, that we're going to find out, some of the things that on the ground happen that, are inadvertent, that we can actually plan around and come up with solutions. So what makes this different is there's different phases. There's a planning phase, then there's a design phase, the do phase, then there's a study phase, and Unfortunately, with our 18-month grant, we're not going to get the final phase, which is ACT, but, but we hope to work with Director Anders afterwards to be able to have this group continue the process without us. And, you know, again, each of these phases are really designed to move along solutions and put them in place. So I hope that answers your question. And I'm happy if you want, I can send you some references for different, you know, studies that have been done about how effective this process is. It's considered one of the more effective organizational change process in the scientific literature.
What we know about the racial inequality sort of in the criminal justice system more widely. What are some of the specific disparities and inequities you're most concerned about within just the jail setting itself?
Well, so a question about the specific disparities and inequities, that's what we're here to find out. We know they exist. We know that systemic racism is a part of every institution, and our academic leaders and our experts in criminal justice reform have been talking about this for quite some time. But we're here to, that's what we're here to ask. We're here to find out what are these specific problems and what are the best policies and procedures to address them, because we know when we address racial inequities, then our residents are going to be more successful when they leave, and our employees here will be more successful in their work in trying to get our residents on a pathway to productivity and employment in our community and away from a life of crime.
Dr. Page, I can see how the program would work for substance abuse, mental illness, all that. But the bottom line is, with the real criminals, the people that do belong in jail, to reform them, I mean, you're saying you want to get them jobs, employment opportunities, but they're not going to make a living wage, really, in our society when they can do crime, which much, you know, water flows the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much bigger problem. I mean, how are you guys going to deal with that? I mean,
Yeah, so your question is about violent crime and criminals who are more dedicated and committed to a life of crime. We're going to work with people, and we're going to give people a chance to make better decisions, and many people will take that opportunity. And the folks that take it will be better off for it, and when more people take it, our community will be better off. Not everyone will benefit from opportunities that are brought to them, but we're still going to be bringing a lot of opportunities, and we know that folks will make better, many people will make better choices when given that opportunity, and we're going to give folks a chance to make a better choice. Not everyone will take that choice. There is a recidivism rate that we measure. Those are folks that were not successful when they were out of jail, and we're sensitive to that. We know it's there, but we're not going to stop trying. We know this works, and we know that this formula will help us reduce crime in St. Louis County, and will also help us with our problems with our workforce. We have a lot of employers that are looking for employees to help them run their businesses, grow their businesses, expand their businesses, and the folks that are making bad decisions and ending up in jail need to make good decisions and help us grow and expand our businesses in our community.
and what can you tell the members of the public who are a little concerned that people might be let out and commit more crimes, like New York's a perfect example? Do we have that case here at all?
Yeah, so yeah, the question is, what do we do if some of the folks that come out of jail reoffend? Some of them do, and what we're doing, everything we're doing today, is to keep them from reoffending, and they won't reoffend, or many of them won't reoffend. Most of them won't reoffend if they've got a pathway to a job, and have a chance to provide for their family, and have a chance at a different life. We know that many people will make that choice. The ones that don't will go back to jail. We will continue to work very closely with prosecuting attorney to make sure we address violent crime in our community, and the people committing these violent crimes go to jail and are punished appropriately for that. Folks that are fumbling through life and making bad decisions and ending up meeting our law enforcement, ending up meeting our jail, we're gonna sit down and work with them and talk to them about substance abuse, mental health treatment, and a pathway to a job. We have professionals that do that, and many of them will make a better decision, and those that do will leave our community better off. And they will be better as individuals. Yes?
So, this study is for people that are already incarcerated. Is anything gonna be overhauled with the court system? Like sentences or something
Yeah.
for people that would agree to go to get help, or anything before already being incarcerated to solve the problem?
So there are many pieces to criminal justice reform. Your question is about what's happening in the courts. We're here today to talk about a grant that is specific to our jail population and how we're going to get them on a pathway to a job. We're going to talk about how we're going to address racial disparities in our jail, and we're going to look very closely at those, identify those, and work towards policies and procedures to remove them, because we know our correction officers will be more successful in that setting, and we know that our jail population will be more successful. There are many pieces to criminal justice reform in our community. We're working on all of them. Our prosecuting attorney is working very closely with the courts to divert folks with substance abuse problems and away from the jail. Our courts already have a mental health court, a drug court, a court for veterans. All of these our circuit court and our municipal courts are working overtime to address opportunities for folks to make better decisions. We are still laser focused on violent crime. Violent crime is going down in St. Louis County. We believe that the combination of addressing criminal justice reform and supporting our law enforcement is the right path forward.
Dr. Page, you want to circle back to the initial question?
Oh yeah, any other questions about the study today? Chris?
What do you think about this loophole that lets summer camps off the hook from rules and regulations?
Yeah, so I believe your question is about a very tragic drowning in St. Louis County pool this summer, and that is, we're going to go through that investigation. We're going to learn from it. We're going to see what we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again in St. Louis County. It's a tragedy. We all feel terrible about it, and we're going to learn from it, and we're going to make sure that our kids that are coming to our summer camps and are swimming in our pools are in a safe environment. There is a regulatory environment around summer camps. The law was recently changed in the state. We're going to look at that very closely. We're going to understand whether or not that regulatory environment is appropriate. That's going to be part of this review. We've got a lot to learn from this. We're very early in the investigation, but I can tell you we're taking it seriously. I appreciate the work you're doing. I understand you are deeply committed to this question, and there's a lot of information to be learned from this. We're going to learn from it. We may make some adjustments or changes. There may be changes in state law in the future. There may be changes in the regulatory environment. We're still trying to understand what happened and what the right process is moving forward.
Also, as you know, I've asked for basic safety requirements that St. Louis County has. Parent to counselor to child ratio, whether you do background checks. When am I going to get that information?
Yeah, well, I would ask you to continue working with the county counselor. I know that she has been working with you, and I've asked her to continue to do that. There's also a litigation around this that will create some boundaries for our ability to share information. We also have to work through that process as well. In addition to making sure that the regulatory environment around our pools and around our summer camps in St. Louis County and in the state of Missouri is right. We also have to respect the family that's lost a loved one in the process they're going through, and we'll work through all of that.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Those who are going to be on the